Okay, we are live. Hi, Cherry Blossom. Cherry Blossom has been here for a couple minutes. Glad you stuck around. She's like, is anyone else here? Hi,
and
Black Tea.
I still haven't got the notification on my tablet yet.
I know. I don't know. Cherry Blossom, I don't know how you found it because I never get the notification either.
I've got it now.
At least until we go live. So, there it is. Yep. I couldn't find it on my channel even. I went on my channel on my phone. I couldn't find it. So that's all right. Hi, Jackie's here. Hello. TLC and Denise. Hi, sweetie. Danny is here. Rowena. So those of you who normally join me on Tuesdays for tarot stuff, we still be talking a bit about tarot, but since I am moving, although I could have, because if I move I haven't packed my decks yet, but that's the goal, is to pack all my decks, and I'd have to put all the cards away, and so forget it. It's not happening until I move. But so in the meantime, Stephen had a great idea, and he was so excited about it this morning that we're gonna get to know some of the admins a little bit better, so that you guys know who's behind the scenes and who my valuable admin people are. And so I thought that was an awesome idea. So we're going to be interviewing the admins. Oh, I forgot. I was going to tell one of them. I think Pat or Shauna is going to be next week. Because they both said they could do it. And so we're going to do one of them next week. We'll figure out. Pat might be working until a little bit later, so we might have to do his later, but maybe Shauna. So let's see, who do we have? Danny, Doug, Silky's room. Hi. Silky Moonstone changed my channel name. All right. Tiny Dancer of Digital Gin. Ooh, that is a tongue twister. I like that one. Hello. So, first of all, let me just say that this has been a long time coming. I could not believe. Now, Stephen, when you first mentioned this, it was, I think when I look back at my notes, it was October, November. And that's how long it takes me to get to something. But I'm glad we are doing it now. This is going to be fun. Okay. So let's start with, do you want to just tell us, first of all, what is your channel name and what made you choose that name? Like, why did you choose that name?
Right. Well, first of all, hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. And this morning I was thinking, who came up with this silly idea of interviewing admins? And I thought, oh, yeah, it was me.
Oops.
So yes, I'm Stephen. As you know, my channel name is Sound of an Ocean Wave, for those that don't know or forgotten. And I
hope the down bar is the link. I hope. I tried to put it in there before I started, but
yeah, I'll just have a quick look. It should be, shouldn't it? It looks like it. So yeah. So why did I choose that name? Because it started by when I was looking for my channel name over 2 years ago now, when I first started my channel. Doesn't time fly when you're having fun? And I was thinking about what kind of name I wanted to pick, and I was looking at what something that I connected with, that represented what I wanted the channel to be about. And it was mainly so I could be part of the online tarot community and let people join in my journey with tarot and etc. And I was thinking about how I viewed tarot and what the purpose of tarot was for me. and it's about getting messages that will, the messages from the cards that will help inspire you, guide you, reveal things about you, and on all that kind of thing. And so it was about how I can let my voice be heard as well. So that was sort of all around messages, sound, voice being heard. And I thought, well, what sounds do I connect with spiritually? What things do I connect with spiritually? And being a Pisces, I connect with water. It's not the only element I connect with. I also connect with air. But yeah, those are the two main ones I would say. We'll probably get onto that a little bit more later on. But the one thing that I really connect with is the ocean. Now, I don't live near the ocean, but when I've been to the ocean, I've always had that kind of spiritual connection. I've always felt an energy that's changed me. Whenever I used to go on holiday at the coast near the sea, as soon as I got near the sea, it was like I was plugged into some kind of new transforming energy, and I used to come alive. And so and I could sit there just looking at the sea, and it was also the sound of the sea. It was the waves crashing, the different sounds, and that you get depending on whether the sea's calm or whether it's choppy, and it's a bit stormy, and it has different sounds to it. So I was thinking about the concept of the sound of an ocean wave and the different sounds that the sea makes, and it's almost like an almost imperceptible whispering of voices and messages. And it's like I would sit there and try and listen to what the ocean was trying to say, So that was the idea, that it was like, listening to the sound of an ocean wave was trying to get those messages, and that tied in with getting the messages from the tarot cards, and and connecting spiritually and that kind of thing. So I thought, I know, why not just call the channel Sound of an Ocean Wave? The energies and the messages come in wave after wave, and we just need to sit there and listen to it and discern what's being said. So I thought that just about summed it up, and it had that connection with the ocean that I had as well. So I thought it sums up me, it sums up the message, it sums up the purpose of the channel. So let's go with that.
And it's such a perfect name, I have to say. As you're saying that, I'm listening to crashing waves, and then you're like, if it's softer, you just a little bubble up. I can totally hear it. I love it. It's perfect. Hello, everyone who came in. Wow, we have lots now. We have 23 in here. Hi. And Bob is here. Linda, Emma, Carmen, Hexen. Hi, sweetie. Danny and Sonia. Hi.
Everyone.
Perfect. It's such a good, and it does go super fast. I cannot believe, like, it's been over 5 years for mine. I cannot even believe how quickly it's coming up. Even Cassie, who I met after Tarot Stock, has been almost a year now. So it goes really fast. Start your channels, guys. Okay, your spiritual path. Describe how you came about on your spiritual path, where you started and up to where you are now.
Okay, well, I could do the really long version of like I was born, and then, but
well, I'm in for the long haul. I can talk.
I'll try and make it as brief as I can. But yes, I mean, I said that jokingly about I was born, but I think my spiritual path did begin when I was born. Probably like most people's. In fact, I actually think my spiritual path began before I was born, and at some point I may actually go into that. But so I and I'm not talking about a previous life or anything like that. That's a whole different subject. I'm talking about my present life, but before I was actually given birth to. But growing up, so we'll move on quickly from being born and everything like that, and we can always return to anything relevant later on. But I think there was always something about the way I viewed the world, even as a child, and I was very questioning. So I was always had the questioning mind, always wanted to know why certain things were the way that they were. I wanted to understand. In fact, my mum, my grandparents, family members would, later on tell me that my most favorite word was, well, why? And they'd like give me an answer, and then I would question the answer. So, yeah, but why's that? And they would usually get very frustrated, and they couldn't understand.
Voice, I get that.
Yeah, but I wanted to know. I wanted to know why. Literally, I wasn't being. It was. I wasn't trying to be annoying. I generally wanted to know the reason. And even as a kid, I would often, stand outside, look at the stars, and wonder what was beyond that. Wonder what those stars were and what the purpose of it all was. I was asking questions like that, even as a young person. Probably questions that I shouldn't have been asking at the age that I was. And more than one family member often used to say, "You're a lot older than that you should be," and things like, "I'm sure you've been on this earth before," things like that, because I seem to have an awareness of something that, I don't know, they just, kids your age you should be interested in other things, but I was connected with something different. So I was always a spiritual seeker. I always knew that there was something beyond what I could see, what was around and everything. So I was always looking for that something else. So that's where, it's part of my spiritual journey. And that was accelerated when my grandmother died. I'd already lost, I think by that point I'd already lost a grandfather, two grandfathers. And then when my paternal grandmother died, she was a very key person in my life, very influential. And when she was gone, it was like I'd lost something very, very key. So I was then that accelerated my search for something.
Isn't that funny how that void causes you to seek out?
Yes, it was. So, and then in that search, when I was about 18, 19, somebody that I made an acquaintance of, doing some kind of course way back in the late 80s. This is going back to like 89. He introduced me to. He invited me to something that was involved in a local church and everything. So I went along with him, and gradually, I got into. I hadn't grown up in the church or anything like that. My grandmother had been to church and everything. She wasn't heavily involved, but she said she believed in like God and that kind of thing. But we weren't a religious family. I didn't sort of have that thing. So, but when I went, I thought, well, I'll look into this. I was looking for that connection, and like it became very involved and committed into that kind of life. And this church was very Bible based, in quotes, fundamental sort of thing that would certainly not approve of what I'm now involved in. But at the time, I was part of that, and I became very heavily involved, and actually became part of assisting in the leadership. I think I took a leadership role within the church. Part of my role was to help coordinate prayer and all that kind of thing. And part of that was praying against sort of, trying to pray for people involved in these kind of practices. And
isn't that funny? No. Yep.
so it's like very much like so what I've been through recently has almost been like a Damascus Road experience in reverse.
Right. Yep. Full circle moment for sure.
But so that was part of my life for quite a while, quite a number of years, and then various things happened within my life, within the church life, and I couldn't no longer be there. And I think I was, although there was a connection there, and I had some good friends there, there was a lot about it that just didn't sit right with me, that perhaps I resisted acknowledging didn't sit right with me because of the things that the benefits I was getting and the things that did at the time. And this is not of a bashing churches, Christianity or anything. I'm just going on my experience. And for a time, it may have been right for me to go through that experience because it did teach me quite a bit, even if it's teaching me what I didn't believe in. So there was
Wrong
a purpose.
path absolutely teaches you almost as much as the right path.
Yeah. So it's, I can't look back and say, well, I wish I hadn't have done that, because I may not have got to this point without going through all of that. So let me see if I can remember where I was. See, I'm in the right group, squirreling off. Squirrel. But yes, certain things happened. But I mean, there were things about it that I didn't. This concept of hell and all this, that if you didn't believe this certain way, you didn't, that you were going to be punished and everything. It didn't make. There was a theoretical argument for it that probably enabled me to stick with it for as long as I did. But it just didn't. There was something inside it didn't really feel right within, and I wasn't inwardly totally committed. Yeah, and there were also things about the way things were done and the politics involved. There's politics involved in anything, and particularly in church life. And when you get into the leadership role, and there's trivial things that go. I mean, I can remember. Even now, I'm careful what I'm going to say, because I take confidentiality and discretion, and I don't want to, so which is why I'm not saying what kind of church it was in any specific term, because it doesn't matter. But then
we all know, we've all seen the same kind of.
We all know, no. But I can remember, and this should have been assigned to me, and I think it did. It wasn't too long actually before things started to go wrong, or probably go right, if you know what I mean. And I was approaching a tower moment that ejected me out of the situation, perhaps because the universe knew that it would take me ages to willingly choose to go out of the situation.
Right. Yep. Nope. So we'll just pluck you out of it.
So as much as I don't like the tower card, I understand it because I've been through it. I'm sure that we all have at some point. And I can remember sitting in a leadership meeting. We would have these discussions about the church life and everything. And we'd talk about important stuff, but we'd also talk about really trivial nonsense stuff. And we would talk about it for ages. And the example I'm going to give you is that I would, and they'd often go on to like late in the night. And I would start to feel tired. I mean, there was me and another person often used to joke, maybe we ought to take our breakfast with us, because we're going to, if it goes on any longer, we're still going to be there the following morning. And they were actually discussing with the particular room in the church building, and they were trying to determine what color curtains they were wanting to get for the room.
Oh, which was the most spiritual curtains you could
Yeah,
get.
exactly. And this was the thing. And we, well, I say we, they, because I didn't give a crap basically what colour the curtains were because I didn't really and you know, to be honest, and it went on for ages and ages and ages. And I was just sat there, and there was a quiet moment. There was like a space in the discussion. And before I knew it, my mouth opened. So I you know, where your mouth opens and it starts saying something before
You have no control.
yeah. And I just said something very simple, very innocent. Was like, we were talking about curtains, and I just said, "Have you thought about putting blinds up?" and the looks I got was, you'd have thought I proposed sacrificing the pastor's firstborn son on the altar of the following Sunday.
Oh yes.
And I can remember the pastor looking at me and as if to say, "Yeah, all right." And I just said, just a thought, and then I just thought, and that should have told me. I think that should have told me then. I thought, and I began to question, what the hell am I doing here? What am I doing with my life?
Why am I in this place? Yes.
Yeah, why am I in this place? And so then a very, you know, a situation, personal, connected with the church and everything like that, made it so that I ended up leaving the church, and I more or less shut down spiritually. It numbed me, and I had other issues to deal with, and I just continued for a number of years. But then it got to a point where I knew there was still something missing. There was still that need for that spiritual connection. And I had dabbled with tarot cards as a kid before I went in the church, even while in the church, but I didn't tell anybody.
Yep.
And I came across a tarot deck, and I started looking at it, and I thought, well, let me see, I thought I'll just have a go with it and everything. And I thought, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. So by that point, YouTube was a thing. Because it wasn't always a thing, guys, just for any younger people. YouTube wasn't. Yeah. We also used to write and send letters rather than emails
with stamps, and yes.
And things used to take days to get somewhere, and if you were looking. But yes, YouTube became a thing, and I just put in tarot and came across the tarot community and various people explaining tarot and what the cards meant and how to learn about it. And I thought, oh, I didn't realize this sort of thing was there. And I got into it, and I was lurking in different channels and everything. And I then started participating in the chats and just saying hi and different things like that, and getting to know people. And I thought, oh, this is quite nice. But I thought, I've been there before, though, with the church. I thought, yeah, they seem quite nice until I got to know them better.
You're such a Pisces.
Yeah. I just like to stress that they weren't all bad. They weren't all
yes.
I'm not. And but a lot of them were. But and to be honest, so was I. I did a lot of the things that I would now say that, yeah, that wasn't a good idea. You know, um, we all learn our own different experiences, and I don't want to judge people and things like that. We all, have different mindsets at different times, and we learn from the mistakes that we make. So, but anyway, getting back to this community, and I thought, well, this is quite nice. And eventually, I got encouraged to, or well, I want to take part in this community a bit more and have a go. And the natural thing was to start my channel. So that was, and it was mainly for tarot, and I was learning it at the time, and I wanted to learn more. So I thought, well, I'll just share my experience of learning and how took part in different things when people would do something, and you'd make a video response to it and put it on the same subject. And I thought that was fun, and you were linking up, and you were learning things, and then that led on to different people. I mean, I found your channel through tarot particularly when you started doing the tarot study on the wands suit.
Yep. Wow, that was a while ago, huh?
It was a while ago, and I thought, and that was a suit that I had a little bit of a problem with. So I thought, oh, I'll watch that, and so I got used to watching your channel. And then I saw other videos that you do. I thought, oh, this is a bit intriguing. She does other things as well, and
a lot of other things.
a lot of other things. And I thought, oh, she's of course at the time your channel was called Willowwind 50 Witch, wasn't it, at the time?
Yep.
And I thought, well, that's an intriguing name. And I thought, hang on a minute, she's a witch. And
she doesn't have a black wart, and she's not worshiping Satan. Yeah. And what happened?
Yeah. So I thought, this is not the kind of concept that I have of somebody that's a witch. So yeah. And I thought, even though she does have a broomstick, but she's talked about it.
Several, yes.
Yeah.
All bought at Goodwill, mostly.
Yeah, because I watched your thrifting videos as well, and that got me into your channel, and I thought, oh, and I thought, well, I don't consider myself a witch, but I'm interested in other kinds of spiritual paths, and I know that other people were involved in other spiritual paths that were in the tarot community, and they had experiences with Buddhism and other sort of pagan pursuits. That's the name, isn't it? if anybody wants a channel name, Pagan Pursuits is a good one.
There you go.
It's up for grabs. And I only want 10% royalty fee for that.
Of all the millions we all make.
Yeah, of all the millions that we all make. So yeah, and then I got into more of your witchy videos, and although I didn't sort of like connect with all of it, there were certain things about it, the nature bit, and the natural cycles and everything like that. And I thought, this actually makes sense. This it doesn't make sense in a theoretical sense, but it makes sense because it's what happens in life, and life is in cycles, and the world moves in cycles, and everything's. And I thought that rings a bell, that chimes within, and it also helped, connected as well to my love of the ocean. That's part of the world. That's an element of the world, and everything. So that's part of the natural world, and I thought, well, I connect with that. So maybe I connect with, whatever. You see that, but at the beginning, I'd like totally done with God, if you know what I mean. I wasn't going to bother with God or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of, and you talked about goddess a lot and everything as well. Concept of goddess was, obviously I knew about, but I wasn't even interested in that. Any kind of deity, I thought, no, we're not doing deity again, ever. Yeah,
I remember that. I felt the same way. I think a
yeah,
lot of us do. When you come from a Christian path, you, at least for a while, you just, you know what? I don't want to deal with that. Something lording over you that, is judging, and it doesn't jive with what you feel goes on in the universe.
that's right. And I just, I don't know. I just thought that that sort of concept I wasn't yet ready for. But the principles of connecting with nature and the world around me and that kind of thing, that did. I thought, well, I could do that because you're connecting with the life around you. You're connecting with what's there, and you can actually see it. You can connect with it. Not that you can't connect with things that you can't see and with the energies that you can't see, because you can. But there's something that is that the energy emanates from, that is part of that it's part. The energy is part of something, as well as it can be floating around in the air and being part of another dimension. It's actually represented there with something that's living and actually there in front of you, and you can't deny it, because even scientifically, and that's the other thing. Even scientifically, that everything has energy. It's there. Even scientists that don't even believe in God or anything like that will acknowledge that some kind of energy is there. They might not tell you what significance it is, but they can tell you, they can actually see it. They found it. It's there. It's irrefutable. So that kind of thing. So any other kind of theology or anything can go out the window if it doesn't include that,
Yep.
because any true theology will actually mirror what is actually there in reality. Any kind of divinity that's actually there, you will see it. I mean, even the Bible says that the creation is there to just show you the divine. Even the Bible says that.
That's
So
right.
if you want to look for whatever the divine is, or God, whatever it is, even the Bible says you look to what in the world around you. So it actually says that in the Bible. I can't remember where, because it's so long ago when I last looked at the Bible, but I know it's there, and so even then the Bible will, even bears that out. So even from that,
I have
even
to
there,
say, Stephen, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to say, because I know you're not good at taking compliments, just like I'm not good at taking compliments, but this is why I love you so much. Because, I mean, this is one of the many reasons, but because you have that analytical thought brain, and really, Stephen, you are one of the admins that will challenge me on something, make me really think about what is it that makes this so? Why do I believe that this is so? And that, to me, I love the science part of it too. The science part of it is really cool to me. So it makes me strive to find that science answer, to find the nuts and bolts of what it is I believe and why. And for us to bounce stuff off each other. I love that interaction sometimes that we have, because you have that analytical brain, and I don't always go to that like my own on a regular basis. I'm so much more the emotional brain that it takes that bouncing back and forth to make me look at the analytical side of it. And I love that part too. So go on.
yeah. And that's why I said that the air element is also one I connect with more the intellectual, analytical, as well as the water kind of element. Those are my two main, the two main elements that I interact with and function with on a regular basis. So that's why I said water and air. And of course, recently I've become more earthy based. It is a little bit lower down than the water and the air, but I have become more, because there's been a need to be grounded a bit more. I perhaps was often a little bit too much in the air, in their thinking thing, and I still am sometimes. Sometimes even I will acknowledge, I will say to myself, Stephen, you're thinking too much about this. You're overthinking. You're talking yourself into. I will start arguments in my head that often I end up losing. It's funny, and
Yep.
and where and often the way that I get brought into new experiences, right, and the way that I was starting to open up to the concept of deity, working with deities, and everybody was talking about this, where you have a god and you often have a goddess and a god, and you work with deities. And I thought, what do you mean you work with them? And that very concept, and it's hard for somebody that's new to sometimes. I mean, people say it off the cuff and they know what they're talking about,
right?
But anybody that's new, that's coming in, also when they hear phrases, it's same with tarot as well. I'm thinking of doing a video on lingo that tarot users use.
That's a great idea.
And I probably use that lingo now because I've gotten to grips of what it means. But I remember there's a lot of things that people talk about, words that are used, like the jargon of the path sort of thing, that is natural for people that are in it. But it's like another language, shadow word.
That you don't automatically know what working with deity means.
What's working with them? What do you mean work with them? And like what deities, and are they real, and what kind of thing? And that's a whole new subject that will take, and you've discussed it before, and I've got my own views on it, and I may actually do a video on my concept of deity and how that works on my channel as well, because it's subjects that we've all discussed, but maybe I need to put my voice into the discussion, and not everybody will agree with it, and maybe in a few months or in a year I might not agree with it, because what I'm finding at the moment is my belief system is evolving and it's changing as I'm learning and getting into new experiences. And I don't think
that. I love that. I love that we can change and learn more and look at things differently the more we learn. I'm really excited that you are delving into a deeper thing on your channel, but we'll get to that, I promise.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So I mean, one of the things that brought me more into the earth element was, if you remember the time, and I think I mentioned it before, and this is going to sound weird, right? But actually, it probably won't sound weird because of who I'm talking to.
That's right. I was going to say, who are you talking to?
But I've mentioned it before. I don't know to how many people, but the experience I had, if you remember, when a tree spoke to me.
Yes. I love that story.
And and I think I could remember when I thought, I can't tell people a tree spoke to me. That and even I thought, Stephen, you're losing the plot now. And we're not. And I thought, you've been hanging around in Jen's group too long.
I was gonna say, and then I came out and said something totally even weirder. So
now, when I say a tree spoke to me, I don't mean actual words. Totally. And I heard a voice. It wasn't like the Ents in Lord of the Rings, is it, where they talked and and
but how cool would that be? I want a tree Ent. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'd be cool with it, but I don't know. Maybe I would, but there are times where it might get a bit annoying. But
that's true.
It's a little like the concept of the fate, which is a whole other thing with me. They seem to be a lot more interested in me than I am in them. I respect them and honor them from a distance, is my attitude.
As much as possible from a distance.
Yeah, but they seem to still come and pinch things and return them
whenever they feel
hopefully
like it.
whenever they feel like it. But no, what I meant was but it was very clear. I wasn't even thinking about any kind of spiritual thing. I was going down to some shops that are not too far from where I live. There was an area of different shops that I go to, but there were trees there. There's a few trees planted in the area, like they do. And I was crossing the road to go across to go to these shops, and there was one tree, and I tell you, there was like an instant connection. It's hard to describe the instant connection, and there was an intuitive knowing that what that tree said is, you need to remember to be grounded and rooted like a tree. And that was the message I got, and I'm like, say what? And I thought, oh. And I was overcome with this, and I thought, well, okay, that's a very good, valuable piece of advice. And I thought, well, I'm always, brought up to say thank you and being British, very polite and all that kind of thing. I actually went up to the tree and put my hand on it and just said thank you. I don't know if anybody saw me or if they thought, what on earth is that magical?
I can totally see you looking around.
Yeah. And I just said thank you for that. I'll try and remember that. And then I carried on. And that was that. And then later that led to when I was more open to deity and everything. I took that as actually Gaia, Mother Earth, reaching out to me through a tree. And
absolutely,
because I think you kept talking about doing that Gaia, Mother Earth meditation of being rooted and everything, and I thought, that's what that tree was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Oh, Stephen, I just love that piece of that. And again, this is why I love you, because you bring me back to reality of when things first start out. And here I am. You would totally, well, you know me now, but I know people think I'm off my rocker all the time. I will stop my car in the highway and go pick up something that calls me on the side of the road that is like a rock or and I know people are like, what in the world is this idiot doing? Doesn't bother me, not at all. But it took me a long time to get there. I've been doing this for almost 20 years now. So it took me a long time to get to this point.
Yes, and yeah, definitely. So, and I just went on, and that led me through, and I actually did my dedication. I found online on this like consecration sort of, you might call it a prayer, but it was more of a statement of intent to work with Gaia. And I actually did that. It was a nice sunny day, and I went and sat on a bench near a tree because the tree had to be involved. and I just sat there and I went through and connected, and that's when I had that connection and that dedication, and that's when Gaia officially became my new first deity in a long time, and it still is. Probably will remain so, because she has a very, very large. She had a very large impact in opening me again up to deity and divine energy, and I think only Gaia could have done that. So so that was my experience there.
And I bet it probably will be forever. I will say that the first deity that you really connect with on this kind of spiritual path, I think you probably always will have a connection to, because there's something very different about connecting to a deity on this side of things. On the other side of Christianity, that is a different experience.
Yeah, definitely. But I can't see where that will change. other deities that I may have that come in may stay for a while or may come for a short time. That may change, but I think that one will be there for a considerable time, because I think it's essential. It's so essential for me to have that rootedness and groundedness in the earth. It's key to me having a successful path, a spiritual path, because that is what has been the problem. That I'd never had that rootedness. I'd never had a sense of belonging, and and a place that where I connected to. So it was that sense of just drifting along, and sometimes I still feel that, and that's when I get reminded about that grounding and being rooted, and that there is a place. And whenever I have that feeling, and I still do, I have those times when I feel that, am I where I belong? Is this my path? And it's the one that really, other messages come in, but Gaia is the one that reaches out first and will grab me. Even recently, when I went for and you know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to go into it, but really hard time, and it was Gaia that came in and kept hold of me during that time and said, no, you're rooted. I wanted to upplant, I wanted to, and all that kind of thing. But no, she wasn't going to let me go. So.
That's right. That's right. All right. So I have to say, first of all, I have to read a couple of things because we've lots and lots of comments. Everybody's really happy that you're telling your story and really loving it. Trisha says, I get the feels hearing other people's stories. It's amazing. Kay said, Stephen, you just have unknowingly helped me put something in order with my practice. Thank you. Deb, yes, they can come forward more at different times. Absolutely. I feel different deities for different situations. Cherry Blossom says, Stephen, you're a beautiful man. My heart done exploded. I love it. Now that was question 1.
Really? It probably touched on other ones as well.
Yes, I believe it touched on a few other ones too. Yes, what? Yep. First impressions of the path. Well, yeah, kind of. The first impressions of the path in the wider community. I would like to hear that too. You touched on it a little bit.
Yeah. My first impression, but I suppose in a sense, it depends which community we're talking about. No, it doesn't really. Because.
But it does. I know what you mean. The tarot community is a little bit different than the witchy community.
There's an overlap.
Yes.
A lot of people in the witchy community are involved in tarot and part of the tarot community.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people that are in the tarot community that are purely tarot and are, as far as I know, into the witchy community, which is fine. I've got no problem with that whatsoever, because that's how I started. So I don't have a problem with that.
The gateway drug.
Yeah, that's right. You see, and that's it. That's what I was always taught, that things like tarot will be a gateway to all kinds of other, weird stuff. So don't go near it.
I guess the Christians were right. Damn it.
Yeah. But no, so there's that community, and I did touch upon that, saying it was welcoming, and witchy community, and I suppose certain elements of the tarot community and witchy community. My first impressions were nice people, crazy as hell, but
I'm so used to that. So yep.
But in a nice way.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And and I'm just as crazy as everybody else. So
I'm proud of it, damn it. You're one of us now. One of us. Jackie has asked a couple times, where do you live?
Where do I live? I live
Not
in
the street, but
sorry?
I said not the street, but
No, I mean, not that I'm against. Well, yeah, I'm not going to give my address, but not because I don't. Just because actually, I actually live with my father, my elderly father, so it's not actually fully my address. So I am a little bit. If it was just my address, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I'll be my address. You know,
yeah, like I mean, yeah,
yeah. But it's not just mine, so I have to respect that, and I'm a little bit cagey for that. But where do I live? I think if you want to narrow it down, I live in the United Kingdom. I live in England, part of the United Kingdom, so I'm British. I'm English in that sense. I live more or less in the sort of in the centre. It's called the Midlands, but it's sort of like it's called the East Midlands. It's like and it's not too far from the city of Nottingham. So
I just love. Can I just say, Robin Hood? Hello, I just love that. Okay.
Yeah. So
every time you guys mention that, I'm like, I want to go to Sherwood Forest.
Yeah, I have been in Sherwood Forest many times.
I love it.
Amongst actually thinking about it, yes, I have been in Sherwood Forest among the trees.
Perfect.
Yeah. See, is there a theme here? See, the trees were watching me all through my life, and they've conspired to bring me to this point. So it's all a conspiracy of the trees. The trees do talk to one another through the root systems and everything. That is another scientific thing. Look it up. So anyway, what was I asking? What was I answering? Oh yes, the thing with the thing about the community. So yeah, but yeah, and there were some things I thought, do they actually believe that? You know, when there are things like, you know, surely they don't believe those things actually exist and all that kind of thing. And now I'm sort of open to the fact that yeah, they might do. You know, not in the way that perhaps we were brought up. You know, things like the fae and fairies, things like that. And maybe the concept of fairies, as we may have been taught about fairies, maybe that kind of, it's a bit like a concept of a witch, isn't it? You know, the stereotypical sort of witch.
Absolutely.
It's like that might not be true, but you know, some of the things that you get, the stereotypes are often distortions of something else.
That's right. I know. I love the story, the old stories from Scotland and stuff, and the Celtic lands of the Fae. They are much more believable of energy work and what could happen there, and different planes and that kind of thing. That's I love. If you take the original stuff, a lot less Tinkerbell.
So my we're talking about first impressions. That was my first impressions, and I thought, well, they might be as crazy, you know, it may not all be true what they're saying. You don't have to agree with everything that everybody says, but the people behind it, the people that were saying it, even that they might have a sort of craziness about them, which I've come to love about everybody, and we all joke about and everything. I could also see the genuineness of the people, particularly most of the people anyway. I mean, that's the thing. As I got into it more, you begin to realize that there will always be elements of any community. There'll be fallouts, disagreements, and there will be people that will come in and cause trouble. But 90-odd%, if not 99%, most of them, you know, most people, you know, they're in it. They're here for the right reasons, and we may not all agree or believe in exactly the same things, and it would probably be very boring if we did, because that's the thing that is particularly one of the other first impressions I got was how the difference, the diversity of spiritual paths, and some similarities between them, but there was also some differences between them. But we could all come together and talk about things, and that intrigued me, that interests me, that drew me to it, because I thought I like that, because even if I don't believe everything that person believes, and I, you know, and same that they don't believe everything that I believe in or anything, we can still get on and connect and learn from one another, and we can take from one another what we want to take and what we think is, I can't that doesn't resonate with me, so I'll just leave that bit. But they this other thing that they're saying and that they represent, that I do connect with, so I'll take that. I'll connect with that, and it helps me to think, yeah, I agree with that particular aspect, and that comes into my spiritual experience then as well. And and maybe I'll say or do something that not that somebody else connects with, and that helps them. And I may say something else, and they say, "Well, okay, I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't match what." I mean, there are things that you don't agree with, things that viewpoints that I've said before. You've said that, and I respect that, because I might not agree with it some way down the line, because my experience may have taught me something different. I can only share the truth and the authenticity of where I'm at any given moment now. And that's me, right? But I'm always open to change and evolving. And I think as long as you're open and willing to learn, and not so rigid that you're not willing to adapt or change your viewpoint even slightly when experience tells you that you need to. And I think as well is that certain beliefs may be right at this particular moment in a person's life, and that might be what your phrase, whatever works, and that particular thing might actually be what works for you now. So it's valid, it's true. Further down the line, it may stop working for you in that present form. So maybe you will have moved on to something else that then works for you. And it may have a little bit of what you're used to have. It may not have any of it. But it's, if you're open and you're true to yourself and everything else, I think that's the key thing.
Heck yeah. Yee-hoo. Testify, Stephen. Okay. I did. All right. I'm going to move on to some of the easier questions, and then I got to go back to at least a couple of the more in-depth questions too. But
Yeah.
do you have any daily practices that help you stay connected spiritually?
My tarot connection is very important. When nothing else works, tarot seems to be there for me, even when everything else is not going right. Does that mean that I always like what the tarot comes up with? Does that mean I always feel excited about it? No, it doesn't. But the practice that I have is of doing a daily draw. I do that on my channel, and I put the video up, I record it. And that was mainly to be accountable and to get me into the habit of doing a daily draw. And if other people found it useful, then, and it spoke to them as well, then great. And it has done. People have told me that they enjoy it and they've gotten some insights from it and everything. And that's great. That's wonderful. But I'd have done it anyway, even if it was for my own benefit, because it was a way of getting into the habit. And I've done that non-stop now for well over a year.
Yeah.
Now, every day. And it's something that I do. And even when I've been through a really crappy time and not interested in being able to connect anything with spiritually, I've always done my daily draw. And often that daily draw, and I've not been necessarily enthusiastic about it, but I've done it, right. And I've tried to
Fine, I'll do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes it'll take me a while, it'll be an effort. And often in those times, that's when tarot decides to call me out on things or to put a card that's relevant to the situation.
Yeah.
And quite often would say, right, okay, enough, stop acting like an ass.
And sometimes you listen, and sometimes you say, screw you, I'm going to stay in the same state I'm in for a little while.
Yeah, often. Yeah, often it'll be, well, no, can I be an ass for a little bit longer?
I'm not quite done yet, damn it. Shut up. Yep, exactly. Tarot is
So,
very good at that.
so that is something that is constant and has been for some time. So that is a daily practice, and it has been my lifeline, because even through the craziest of times and even the the darkest of times, it just going through, forcing myself to do it has stopped me sinking too far down.
Yep,
Just
that
having a part of a
stepping
routine,
forward, just even if it's just that little step.
even
Absolutely.
if you do it, even if you do it through gritted teeth and
You don't
like
really give a
like
shit. You don't care what the card says, and you don't listen to the
yeah,
card.
and 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 then and often I'll pull a card and I'll go in, and because I'm recording it and other people are going to see it and everything, I try and make it into a reasonable sort of message. But as soon as I see the card often, and I think a couple of people have seen it. I haven't said anything, but the way I react, it's like oh shit kind of reaction. And they must see it in my eyes for that split second. And I try not to show it, but obviously I must do. Because some perceptive people have called me out on it, and like not just you, other people too. But
Empathic people can feel it even if you don't show it, because there's a lot of times that I'm super impressed because I know what you're going through, and I'll see the card and be like, oh, poor Steven. Boy, they're calling him out, but you can't see a thing. So you do well with that.
yes.
Oh, so
So,
good.
and as well as I do try and remember sort of the deities that are there, and I don't necessarily do any kind of ritual sort of on a daily basis, but I do give some kind of like conscious sort of, you know I sort of look to them consciously and connect with them and acknowledge them, that kind of thing. So, and they're there, and you know and I don't know if you want to talk about deities or anything, or anything. What were the questions you've got? I've forgotten what were the questions you've got, but
Yes, we will get to deity for sure.
yes.
Definitely. Let me do you have a favorite tarot card of any deck? Just like one card that you like to look for.
Um. Well, my birth card's the Chariot card. I like that. Um. And uh, and the shadow part of that is the Tower card. Funnily enough, and when I was talking about my tarot moment being a key point and everything, that yeah, it's funny that experiencing that tarot moment has helped to get to the point where I can get onto the proper spiritual path. So I've just noticed that. So yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other cards are like, so. I mean, a real favorite. I mean, I do like that. I've really I don't know, the idea of the magician appeals to me, being able to create with all the gifts and the elemental sort of representations and everything, and using the tools and the four suits of the tarot. That card sort of appeals to me, and I'd like to be able to like become more magician-like in being able to create the reality around me and that kind of thing. That's more of an aspirational sort of
Like a
connection to
goal card. I like it. That's good.
yeah. I like the Hermit because I just love the way that it looks, and usually it's portrayed, and I like that kind of like mystical kind of look to it, and that going within. And I do like, I mean, there is that part of me that's quite reserved and shy, and can be I do look inwardly and like to be by myself quite often. I like to connect with other people, and doing this kind of thing is good for me too. Although it's been very difficult to get to that point. If I wasn't always as keen. But so that ultimate concept. But any, I wouldn't say there's any favorite ones. I mean, a bit like you. they're you know,
Oh, this one's my favorite.
yeah, depending on the circumstances
Right.
and the time and the way the card comes out, it's a favorite for the time. And you know, and all the cards can have that kind of impact. If you were to ask me what cards I don't like, again, every card has its purpose and can have a positive message if you view it in the right way, like the Tower. Because if I hadn't had that Tower moment all those years ago, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing now. So because I would have resisted to change, even though I knew I was probably in the wrong place. There was too much connecting me to that place that those connections had to be, you know, more or less pulled up, uprooted, so that I had no choice but to move on. And so even that kind of thing, you know, there's a positivity even to cards like the Tower card.
I love the Tower card. I mean, I don't love to receive the Tower card and know that emotional upheaval is coming, but it really does. And I've always had, every single time I've had a Tower moment, it always does mean at the end of it is this thing that you never would have seen. You never would have gotten to that point. There's a purpose to this breaking down. You know, I think of my husband who was in the military talking about basic training, and that it really is a breaking down. You lose who you are so that they instill this other thing in you that you never would have had they not done the breaking down thing. It's the same thing with the Tower card.
Yeah. And I think, you know, and you'll get cards that keep coming up again and again, usually because you're not listening to something or it needs to be emphasized. Even if you're starting to listen to it, but it's like saying, yeah, you're getting there, but you still need to think about this more.
You think about it, but not quite. Yeah.
I mean, the one card, right? The one card that you will know of that really, I don't know why, but I do. I sort of know why now. The card, you know, the card I'm going to mention, because it was towards the end of the last year, and as we're entering into this 2020, that I had a really, really iffy feeling about. I was not looking forward to this year. I was getting serious vibes about 2020. Yeah, I know why now.
Bad vibe.
More than I realized, but the card that did it for me, when I did a reading for myself about the year ahead, it was about what is going to be, and all the other cards were fine. Most of them were, you know, pretty fine. Some were a bit meh, but there was this one card, and it's what is going to be the theme for you for next year, right? And you know what's coming up, and it was the Five of Swords. And I flipped my shit, basically.
Yes, you are not happy at all with that.
And I was like, what the hell is that about? Because I was actually, that was actually at the point where I hadn't got the sort of foreboding kind of thing. I hadn't gotten to that stage yet. And I got plans for 2020, and I was quite in, you know, things I wanted to do, and thought it was going to be, you know, I'd been through a lot of preparatory sort of things during 2019, and I thought, yeah, next year's going to be a really good year. And then I get, what's the theme of 2020 going to be for you? And it's the Five of Swords, about the defeat. And I'm thinking, well, I'm just not going to bother then. I might as well hibernate until 2021. You know, I'm not. Yeah, let's miss 2020. Let's forget that. And I think the universe has almost answered me on that one. It's like, yeah, let's put that on pause for 2020.
Yeah, forget this whole year. You are the reason I didn't even do a year ahead spread this year, because when you pulled yours, I was like, nope, I'm out. I'm not doing it. Forget it. I don't want to know.
and I think this was just before things were, coming out in China and everything, just before then. So maybe I caused what's going on now.
Oh, I know. It definitely was correct, though. I mean, once again, Tara was right on.
But and I for a long time, this, I couldn't. I always get into and it just didn't come out. And then after that, it kept coming out in different readings, and what people kept pulling it in their readings and showing it, and I'm like,
I think eventually, didn't I tell you to take it out of the deck? I'm like, just take it out. Just take it out of the deck, Stephen. That's it.
You told me to take it out of the deck. You told me to take it out of the deck, and I got to that. I was sorely tempted to take it out of the deck because I was sick of it, and it was like, I hate this card. This card, it was like, who created this card? And I had it was a really bad thing. And I hadn't felt that way about any other card before or since up to now. Hopefully not again, because that was. But I'm going to tell you now, that card means a lot to me, and I've actually had a positive experience with that card. And we laugh and we joke and everything. But now I love to be reminded of that card because there's a message behind that. I got the message. It wasn't necessarily the fact I was going to be suffering defeat and everything. In fact, on the contrary.
5 of Swords, Cherry Blossom. Somebody missed what card it was. 5 of Swords.
Yes, it was the 5 of Swords. It was this card because I knew. I thought I was going to mention this. This is the card. This is the card, right? This is the villain of the hour of when. And it's just a piece of card with an image on it. But the reaction I got to this, because it spoke to something very deeply rooted in me. And that's why it's like, why am I reacting so strongly to this card? Why is it? There must be a reason. And to me, it's all about dealing with a sense of failure and fear of failure, knowing what battles to fight and what situations that are not worth pursuing, and when it's time to move on. And it ties in with my tower moment all those years ago, and that sense of loss and defeat that's been held in there and has been holding me back from moving forward spiritually because of that, and feeling that I lost something. The universe was and it's like, no, you're still alive. You walked away from this kind of experience and you moved on. I mean, we all know, obviously, the 5 of Swords is followed by the 6 of Swords with the boat, traveling to calmer waters, traveling to new experiences. And that's what I got the messages. You need to get to the root and deal with this sense of being afraid to fail. The discussions that I've had, that I've often felt that, even this spiritual path, I'm struggling to make it work at times. And often when I get to a feeling that even this is failing, and I get to a crisis point with it, because of that, it's that failure. And that is the theme. And, and the way this year's gone and recent events, experiences will tell that is the theme for this year, because this year is the year that I've got to get that issue within me, that that not to let that be a restriction upon my path, to get to the lessons. You can learn from the experience, but you can fail, but it doesn't make you a failure.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's the lessons you learn. So that is the theme for this, because I'm actually believe I'm very, very deeply going into that kind of thing. Buttons have been pushed, things have been brought up, and it's not very pleasant at times, but it's necessary, because if I don't deal with that, that's going to hold me back from embracing everything that I'm wanting to embrace, but that is beginning to, it's still there holding me back a little. And it's like the universe saying, now's the time, that needs to stop, so that you can be really free to move on.
That's just beautiful.
So I hope that goes some way to so for this year, that it could be said that this is my favorite card at the moment, because it's helping me to deal with a deep rooted thing that needs dealing with, so that I can move on and progress.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, after this card that I was so angry with, can probably be the best thing that actually this is going to be, the friend that comes in and says something that makes you angry as shit. How dare you say that to me? You know, those friends that we have that will come and tell us hard truths and things that we don't want to hear, that push the buttons. But they are sometimes the really good friends that will, we don't think at the time, we call them shits and other things like that, and we don't want to talk to them or anything to do with them. But when we when we actually let that message sink in and we work through it, and then we let the change come, and we realize that was the best thing you could have said to me at the time, even though,
Thank you for being brave enough to say that to me.
Yeah. And, and not every friend can do that, and that's okay. Different people have different roles in our lives, but that we need to value people that have the courage to tell us stuff like that makes us as angry as anything and annoys us, and we want to strangle and, that kind of thing. But those, they serve a purpose. So be thankful for those, even if you want to just punch them in the face and tell them to shut up at the time.
That's right. That's right. Oh, that's good. I can't. Whoever thought you'd see the day that the Five of Swords would be a card that you're like, yeah, okay, I can learn that. It's a lesson that I'm learning. It reminds me of. I love it. I love it.
And this is the card that did it for me of the Five of Swords, was the one in Witch's Tarot.
I love that one.
Yeah, and that did it to me because of the dragonfly, which is and the light around it and everything leading to that moment, that transformation, that new beginning, through dealing with that sense of defeat and loss, and learning the lessons and knowing what's really important. And
great.
And that's, when I saw that card, I thought, oh, I like that idea, because it didn't quite have that sort of sense of being defeated in battle kind of feeling. It had a more positive sort of transformation kind of message. So I thought, oh, so I saw it in a new light. So that's when it happened.
I love it. Yes. So Stalker card, I'm assuming that would be Five of Swords this year. How many decks do you have?
How many decks do I have? Not many, because I'm not one of these great big collectors of decks and everything. Not there's anything wrong with that. But I'm more or less, one, because I'm not one to just go out and splurge out on a deck, because I have to think that I'm really going to use it, or it interests me in some way. Even if I'm not going to use it, it's something that I want, because and I've not really, as I say, I've only been a couple of years now, seriously into it. And I know you can buy a lot of decks in a couple of years, and many people have done, and I've seen it, and One thing is I'd probably need to make room to have that many kind of decks start.
Right.
So practicalities, finance, different other things. But it has grown. I started off with one, maybe two decks. It's into double figures. So yeah, and definitely if you include Oracle decks as well as Tarot. It's exactly how many. I'm using my phone, so I can't look at that app that will tell me. I'm guessing it's double figures Tarot, upper single digits for Oracle. So we're maybe talking around 20 decks.
That's
Roughly.
nothing.
Yeah.
And yes, he uses Oracle every day with tarot.
Yes, that's right. And but the same with the Oracle decks. I have to really, connect with the deck or like the images and find that, think that image I'm going to be able to read with it. That kind of thing. And she vanished me.
Oh. Sorry. I pressed the wrong button, damn it.
So roughly about 20, maybe just over 20 in all of decks totally. But as I say, I actually have to like the decks, that kind of thing. But I'm probably not finished with getting new decks and things like that. So that may grow. And I may actually, after this is done, I may actually go and look, and I might think, oh, I didn't realize it was that many. But yeah, but I think seriously that's about right for me. But I like the decks that I've got, and I like to be able to try and use the decks that I've got that I have. But the plenty people do accumulate vast numbers of decks and use them as well. I mean, you draw cards from many decks for Child Tuesday. Usually, about
Absolutely.
100 cards each week. That kind of.
I try not to, but it's my favorite card that week.
Yeah.
Do you practice does your family know what your spiritual path is, or do you practice without them knowing really what you're involved in?
Yeah, I think I'd say that I must just get on with it, and they don't really know. They don't really know it to the extent of what. Most of them probably wouldn't want to know anyway. They say, well, that's up to you. You go and do your thing. Probably wouldn't understand it and that kind of thing. So
do you think that's a British thing? Sometimes I wonder, because I know, at least in America, it seems like our families are way nosier. Like they have to know every damn thing you do.
I think it could be a cultural thing too, that it's a personal thing, that you don't talk about it a lot. That you almost, even people that go to church probably do it putting their hoods over their heads to not make a show of it, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's like it's that saying, I don't know if you have it ever. No, we definitely do here, is that you don't talk about, was it politics, religion, and something else. Yep. So
yeah, we say that, but we still talk about most of it anyway. So
yeah,
we lie.
Yeah. And I think we're starting to a little bit more now. But there is that sort of British kind of, it's exaggerated sometimes with the stereotype, but there is a sense of being more reserved, and well, we don't, that's for you and what you do in your life. That's for everybody to just get on and keep to themselves and that kind of thing. You go and do your thing, and we don't. Yeah. We don't talk about things like that.
How about crystals? Do you work with crystals at all?
I've started to. I'm not as into it as some people that I know maybe.
I don't know who you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, more than one person. And yeah, no, I can understand why people connect with it. And again, it's, I've only just started to. I'm probably, as parts of it, I learned to connect with them more. Probably will get more. It has grown the number of crystals I have. I don't have as many as what some people do. But yes, I do. Amethyst is the one I really connected with to start with. I mean, there's a bit of amethyst here and that kind of thing, and I do connect with that quite well. Recently, I think you put I think it was when you were showing me. I mean, I did have a piece of black tourmaline that used to be keep me grounded, and I used to love holding that. That disappeared. I don't know where that's gone. Well, I do sort of know where that might have gone, and it may actually return at some point. It's one of those situations.
Yep.
Because I had a piece of rose quartz that disappeared for well over a year, and then suddenly turned up out of the blue, and it was there, and I thought, well, that wasn't there before. Where's that come from?
No, that wasn't there. Yep.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So, when you used to show your school council, and you used to go and say this is the council for the week and everything, and there was a particular school and I really connected with it, and it was the silver sheen obsidian skull, and I connected with that, and I got hold of some silver sheen obsidian tumble stones, and as soon as I got them and held those, oh my word, did I feel gone, the feeling I got with that. So yes, I do. But it's more of like a practical sort of sense of, it's what I reach for. If I can't think of anything else to do, I can reach, and if I do nothing else, I just sit and hold it.
Yep.
And just, and I don't, and I might not even be aware of how much. Sometimes I don't feel. Sometimes I'll connect with it. I can feel its energy, and there'll be a time when I can't feel a thing. But it doesn't mean its energy is not there and it's not doing its work.
Yep. Absolutely.
The connection is the connection is going so deep because it's having to help you deal with whatever you're going through. You're just not aware of it because it's gone so deep that you're not perceiving it, but it's still going through. So it does, after a time, my mood changes and I can cope with things a bit better. So in that sense, just grabbing hold of a crystal can, the energy it represents, and it lifts my vibrational energy just that little bit enough to help me deal with what I'm dealing with or get me into that kind of frame of mind. So yes, I do. I don't deal with many, but the ones I get and use, I've found useful and helpful when I've needed them. So
all right, last couple here. We've been on an hour and a half. Woohoo! See, you can talk too. All right.
This is probably one of the most times I've actually chatted on a live video. I'm often just sat there quietly listening to conversation.
No, I love that we got you to open up. I'm so excited. Everybody can see what I get to see. Okay. What was it? Oh, deity. I want you to talk about what deities you've connected with.
Okay, so I've told you about my connection with Gaia, wonderfully connection that came in there, and then the after a time, I thought, well, I need to balance that with the God type of energy, and I thought, well, am I ready to go back to that that male kind of deity kind of concept? And I'm like thinking, well, it's not in the same way as it was before. It's not the same thing. And that's the beauty of it, because that's the beauty of having all these different deities. It's a way of connecting with the energy of the divine, or whatever you want to call it. And as I say, I will probably have a go into that subject a bit more on my channel, or of my views on it. That my current views on it, and my what I've gotten to so far. And it has changed, it has evolved, and probably will continue to evolve. But anyway, let's get in. And I thought, well, I was looking about gods, and the obvious god that came to me was a god to do with the ocean, because of me connecting with the ocean, my channel name, and the water element and everything. And I'd gotten the earth. I was earthed through Gaia, and so the obvious ones were like Neptune, Poseidon, and I think I was more connected to the Poseidon aspect rather than the Neptune. I know they're basically the same thing with different names, but I think the Greek, I think the Romans just took the Greek one and changed the name. So I went to the original sort of thing.
I feel a little difference though from Neptune and Poseidon if I am connecting.
Maybe there's a slight change in the energy, and that sort of fits in with my current viewpoint on deity and that kind of thing. So I'll probably go into that a bit more. There can be a sort of difference, and there's a reason for it. But I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to tease that. So because I want people to watch the videos that I will eventually get around to producing on my channel. So so Poseidon became my next deity, and I thought, well, how am I going to connect with Poseidon? Because I don't live near the sea, so it seems a bit silly. And I'm thinking, well, where's it written that you can't connect with a sea deity, even if you don't live near the sea? Who says that?
Right.
And and it's like, and there are different ways of connecting with deity in different forms. I mean, obviously, he's also the god of, he's got the connection with horses. And I thought, well, I'm not really into horses. I like horses, but I'm not really into horses. I'm not a horsey person, if there's such a word. But and I thought, I'm not going to connect to him through that. But he's also like the god of like storms and earthquakes and things like that. And I thought, oh, I like storms. I'll always listen to the thunder and things like that element. So there's that element as well. That in itself connected, like, feeling connected to the energy of thunder and sound. That sound element. That's something that I've really I'm going squirreling off onto another subject again. I will bring it back quickly. But that is another thing that's just come to me recently, that sound is, I need to incorporate that into my practice a lot more, because it is a connection for me. And when I suddenly realized it, I thought, duh, why is it took me so long to grasp that? Sound of an ocean
The name
wave.
of your channel, yep.
So I'm going into things like incorporating sound, using my singing bowl. That helped me recently a lot. And that was the thing about, it's that sound again. It's that sound that helps me to connect in a really deep way. So I've started looking into mantras and chants and different things, and ways to incorporate sound into my practice, and probably affirmations. But that's another subject that I've had difficulty with, but I'm working on. So that may be another subject to come into. Trying to answer again your question, I was going to connect to Poseidon when I wasn't near the sea, and don't really have a great. There's a local reservoir nearby. It's a body of water, but you don't go near it for too long, because it's a bit like, it's not the cleanest of places, and you're liable to pick up something. So it's not really. It's not a body of water.
Natural water you're looking for. Yep.
Yeah. But I can connect through the water element through looking at a bowl of water. That water has come from a source of water that connects back. It has the energy of the ocean in it, because it has that energy connection to the ocean. Even if it's not in the ocean now, it has that connection to it. A glass of water, you know, when I drank a glass of water, it's like the way I would drink it was that I would connect with that element and connect
Using
to
your
that.
body with that.
Yeah, that water element helped me to connect with Poseidon in that way, connect with that deity through the water element that he was over. So, you know, so that is a way that you can do that, just using the water element. I mean, when I've got an offering bowl on my altar that I give to Poseidon as a as an offering, as a thing. I have a bowl of sea salt, so that's like got that connection there. So that helps me to connect, and
Josh, not you.
it helps, and the role that and Gaia has that role of keeping me grounded and rooted. Poseidon gives me that ability to have that sense of strength and being in my own authority of who I am, and not to shy away from that. To have gives me more courage and all those like God, that God energy attributes sort of thing. So that balances it out, kind of thing. And then so those were the two for a while, and recently I felt a connection with the Norse god Odin. I'm still working out what his role is entirely. I think it does connect with because he has that element to him to do with like verse and poetry and writing and that kind of thing. And that's something I connect with writing. That's a side of me that not everybody knows, but you're aware of, and probably I need to use more as well. So it's that inspirational kind of role, and also sometimes to Odin's a title. Just he won't come and necessarily. He'll give you some tough love and say, just grit your teeth and carry on, kind of energy, and give me a kick up the backside.
I was going to say a boot in the ass. Yep. You sure will.
Yeah. So there's that. But that's a very recent connection there, and I've come to realize that most the deities I have connect to water, fire, and air. No, sorry, scrub that. Water, earth, and air. But the thing that I don't connect with so well, although in my astrological birth chart, I'm very, very evenly represented by all four elements. But in my experience of connection, fire is at the bottom of the list. And I'm still missing that. I want a fire deity, probably a goddess to balance out the two gods and the one goddess. And I've been a bit frustrated with what that might be and trying to find that. So, but I've let that. I said, all right, I can't. I've done research. I've looked into it, and I'm thinking, right, I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to push it. It'll come at the right time in the right way, and it could be one of those. Oh no!
That too. Yep. Suddenly it'll be there.
So I think that's the key thing. That sometimes, you do. There's nothing wrong with researching and looking to what deities you might want to work with, but don't be too overly concerned about it, because it will happen at the right time in the right way. Be open to it. Be willing to put the work in, because it is working with deities. It is work. It's not just it's over a period of time. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's a relationship you're building up. And maybe the three deities and the elements I need to work with more first to prepare me for that fire energy before the fire energy comes in.
That's true.
That's why.
Absolutely.
That's why, because I'm really genuinely trying to reach out for it. But I think what I'm getting is, yes, you will, but now's not the right time, because you need to work with the stronger elements more to prepare you. Because if the fire element came in strongly now, you wouldn't be able to cope with it, because you've not gotten to that stage.
Explode. Yep, absolutely. All right. Second from the last question. Shush. What the hell is your name? Be quiet. The male viewpoint is something that we don't hear a whole lot about. I bet you at least 85% of at least our community, witchy community, is female. We have some men in here, but we don't get to hear about the male perspective of your spirituality very much. So from the male perspective, what insights do you have looking at the pagan community and the pagan spiritual path from that perspective?
Right. I'll give you the concise answer to that, because I could talk about this for hours.
I know, and I kind of wanted to get to this sooner, because I could listen to it for hours. So I hope you do a more in-depth thing on your channel, because I want to hear it. But yeah,
I'm hoping to, yes. Now, I will start by saying that I can't speak for every man, because every man, like every woman, is different in their experience. So I can't blanketly say this is the male perspective on
this is
on the issue.
right.
because another man in the community may come and have a different outlook on it than I do. No less valid, just as valid as what my view is. I can only share the male perspective from my own individual point of view, as it is now and as it has been, because that's the only thing that I can know with all authority to speak on. And it's the truth, it's the reality as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Someone else may have a different outlook, which is just as valid. So having said that, as a caveat to what I'm going to say is that, yes, it does seem the thing that like first, going back to those first impressions, particularly of the witchy community, it is very, very female, feminine energy, orientated. Now, there is nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with, women, female, feminine energy, or whatever, if I have a lot of admiration and respect for it, because the key people in through my life have been women. So, and particularly in a really impactful and spiritual sort of way. So, and I can understand why the witch community is female orientated. Because of going back into the history and everything like that, breaking free of the masculine patriarchal sort of dominance that came in, and the mistreatment and the repression of women and the subjugation and and that kind of thing. And the women said, no, we're going to rise. And this path has enabled a lot of women to find their strength and their power, quite rightly, because a lot of men and let's say the patriarchal sort of system and everything has been shits to the female gender and everything, and I can understand that, and they're fully entitled to say, no, we're going to be women, we're going to be tap into the power,
blah blah blah, yeah.
all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that gets me, that got me, and you know this, and I say it with all respect, is that this thing about, well, about this being a witch and everything, which is an entirely different subject, is why I don't call myself a witch, at least at present. Maybe, there are reasons for that I'm not going to go into at present, because this will go on for another 4 hours. But but this is the thing is, well, yes, if you're a man and you're in on this path, you can be, you're a witch too, sort of thing. You're a witch is not just a woman and everything. And then you say that, but then you center everything around
her, she.
Yeah, she. And I had a particular thing with a certain book because she talked about, she like gave a passing mention to men being, yeah, you're in this as well. Yeah.
But anyways,
but now it's all us girls together, and I'm like, well, either we're part of the path as well, or we're not. So, and I get why there's a lot of like female-centered stuff with, and a lot of almost seemingly some, not this particular sort of group, but in certain areas there may even be a deliberate exclusion of male sort of pagan pagan people, sort of because they just want it to be a woman's group, a woman's thing. And yeah, they've got a right to do that if that's but where I do take issue is that if they say definitely, they've got a right to say, as far as we're concerned, we don't want men. We're not interested in that aspect. I don't agree with it, but they have a right to it. But if they're saying that men shouldn't be involved full stop anywhere, then no, I don't agree with that at all, because it doesn't match what they believe in, because what they believe in is represented by a goddess, yes, but also by the god. So you've got to include the two, and they're on an equal footing and in different ways, but they are just as much part. And I think, and you get into this whole thing about stereotypical sort of like what's feminine energy, what's masculine energy, and should we be using gender attribution and things like that. And I get that, but it's the way that we understand these things. I'm not saying it's we're not necessarily saying it that this is like a thing in reality. It's just the way we choose to understand the reality by expressing it in those terms. That's my view on it. It's the same energy, but it's the way we're talking about it. So we're not actually saying that something's specifically female or specifically male, because I don't necessarily think that those exist in reality. Energy is energy, but it's the way that we come to choose to understand it. So that's my viewpoint on it. And I think there does need to be more inclusion of, people that are male or identify as male or female or of any gender, or no gender, whatever. There needs to be an inclusion of anybody, because we're all representations and we're all come from the same energy. If what we're believing is true, we all come from that same energy, that same source. We're just different expressions of the same thing.
That's right.
And
so we are surely, male and female both,
surely if that's what we believe as pagans, and that needs to be how we practice our paths too, not just individually but as a community as well. So one of my things is there needs to be more representation. I'm not saying that there isn't any, but I think there needs to be. I think the balance needs to be addressed to it. Maybe that's part of my role. I don't know. I don't necessarily feel it's what I observe. It's what I think, but I don't. There's only certain to a degree that I feel that I've got a right at the moment to comment on it. Because one, I don't consider myself as a witch or anything like that. So to talk about that, I feel as if I'd be like, well, why are you talking about that? You don't even consider yourself a witch. But I'm on the pagan path. I'm on that kind of pathway. Yes. So in that broader sense, I believe I have a right to voice, what I believe on that and contribute to that discussion and to help bring about the change that I want as well. Because sometimes we are part of the change that we want to see, and
Hopefully.
it will only come about if people like me and other people start taking an active role and doing what the women did and saying, and rise up in their power, their own individual power and authority, and say that my voice is going to be heard, just like the women quite rightly had to do and did do. Maybe it's time for us men to do the same and take more of a part. Maybe the reason that it is mostly female orientated is because the men are wimping out of taking part and putting their contribution in.
Right.
So yeah, so we need to step up to the plate and make our voice heard just as much in order to that. So that's the way I see it at present.
Absolutely.
It does seem there is a bias, but the only way for that bias to be addressed is for us as men in the community to step up and play our part and to contribute and to let our voice be heard. And
Yes.
we may need to, it may take some effort and persistence in order for that to happen. But hey, and I always think that, I mean, women, I'm going to play into a stereotype here now, but I've always seen women as being better at that kind of thing anyway. I find that most women they connect to that and open up to that kind of thing more easily than men. Men don't talk about their feelings a lot. It's a lot a gross generalization, I know, but we don't. And perhaps women express themselves are a bit more open to that. That's probably why it is more something that women are drawn to.
That's true.
But there are aspects to it but maybe if more men are seen playing a vital and a valid role in that community and are on that path more and more, maybe other men that may have thought about this pathway but have just looked and seen, oh, it's just women, and that's put them off. Maybe they'll say, no, it's not just for women. There are men involved in this, and maybe there's something that I can connect to in that.
Yes. Here. Well said. I love it. All right. Last question. And I will say, I hope you go back through and because a lot of comments, but because we're both talkers, it's hard to get to the comments. I love you all. But yes, you've gotten a lot of really good comments too. But the last thing I want to know is because you're closer to being a beginner than I am, if you had advice and tips for beginners first coming into this path and exploring this path, what tips would you give them if they were first coming in?
Right. My first tip is you may think, oh my God, these crazy people. And I mean that. And I've already said that. And what are they talking about? What does that mean? And we're talking about that jargon again. What the hell is working with deities? What the hell is shadow work? What shadows? And other aspects of things like that. I'll try and do a video on jargon and things like that because it's something that, because I'm interested in being interested in writing and expressing ways. I'm interested in words and how things are termed and used in that way. Don't be put off by things you don't understand. Right? You're not going to understand everything straight away. In some cases, it's probably best that you don't understand everything straight away, because you won't be able to. That's the other thing. You won't be able to cope with that. You only need to focus on what you need to focus on at any given moment, and that's my other tip: is don't be too much in a hurry. I mean, I want to know everything straight away. I want to know all the ins and outs and everything, and that's good to have that first for wanting to learn, but don't rush it. enjoy the experience and don't rush it. Just take it, enjoy each step for what it is. And there'll be a lot of things that you don't understand, but the things that you do, look at that. Look at the things that that drew you to that in the first place, and concentrate on that and learn more about that. And as you learn more and as you grow more, you will then be ready to, then something else will suddenly become clear that you were hearing before, but you didn't understand a single word of it. But because of how you've grown and the knowledge you've gained, something will click and you then understand that part of it. So at the right time, different things. So persevere. Don't give up thinking, oh, I'm never going to understand this as well. Give it time. Don't be in a rush. Give it time, and just enjoy. And also, don't compare yourself, because I do this and this drives me nuts. I drive myself nuts with this. I look at everybody, even with the other admins and the different experience in their paths and everything. I'm thinking, well, why am I here? Because they're all there talking about this and that, and I'm not really, not involved in that yet. And and I'm sort of like, am I in the right group? But don't compare yourself. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Remember, it's your path. And although there may be similarities to everybody's path, there'll be differences too. And the reason is that we're all here because we're unique in some way. And that's why our voice is valid, our contribution is valid, because we have a unique part that nobody else can bring. So your part that you are bringing to the bigger picture is vital, because there's an element that only you can bring. So don't ever think that your contribution or whatever you're bringing isn't important, because there's plenty of other people doing stuff. There's something within you that is unique that nobody else is bringing, and you're here to do that. You may not know entirely what that is. I'm still trying to work that out in some ways. But I'm enjoying the journey of trying, well, mostly enjoying the journey. Sometimes it is a bit of a pain in the arse, but but but
I'm still learning, by the way, too. Don't think that you're going to get to this point where you know everything. You don't ever know everything. You don't.
I get that. Well, I sort of get that. Sometimes I forget that and think I ought to be knowing everything in one go. But then I remember that it's, you've got the rest of your life to live this path out, and your path will change and different as you learn and different things like that. But you start with the basics. Start with what you connect with the most, and let it unfold naturally, and follow what you're connecting with on your path. It may not be entirely the same as as other people, but that doesn't matter. We're all walking our own different paths. So be true to yourself, and don't be too hard on yourself. Don't expect too much too soon. And just try things out as well. And if it doesn't, you don't connect with it, it doesn't work. As I said, with the Five of Swords is fear of failure. Be willing for things not to work. If it doesn't work out, I'm. There's a lot about this path you can do. You can test out, and if it isn't quite right, there's no great loss. Yeah, there's certain things that perhaps you needn't be reckless with and go too deeply into if you don't know what you're doing and that kind of thing. But mostly, I think it's an exploration, it's a journey, it's an adventure, and finding out what you don't connect with, at least at the moment, is just as important of finding out what you do connect with. So be willing to do something, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've done something wrong, that you've failed in your spiritual path, which is the thing that I've got to get into my mind. That's the theme of this year for me with the Five of Swords. Going back to that, it doesn't mean that you've failed. You've just succeeded in finding out what's not right for you at the moment. So you've been successful in finding out what's not working for you. So you can pat yourself on the back and say, well, that's something I'm not going to be involved with just now. I'll try something different.
Another one off the list.
And that's just
like
as important.
My analogy with the toddler with that, I try to remember that with people who are new to the path, that, you know, when you're a toddler, everything goes in your mouth, and some stuff is supposed to go in your mouth and some stuff is not. But when you're starting out, of course you're going to put everything in there. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to try out as much as you can. Go ahead and try stuff out if you're interested in it. Research it a little bit, try it out, see if it works for you. If it does, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. There's no failure here.
No, that's right. And that's what you've got to get into your mind. Sometimes we can get too many hang-ups about, oh, what do I need to study next? What do I need to do next? And I don't understand this at the moment. There's still lots of things I don't quite fully get. The penny hasn't dropped. I sort of get the theory behind it, but it's part of my practice. I'm not thinking, no, I still don't get how it works. And I feel a bit dumb, spiritually dumb, because I'm thinking, well, I'm a smart person, relatively speaking. Why can't I get this? Because it's not important right now. There are other things more important. If it's important for you at some stage, it will suddenly become clear. And it may not be in the way that everybody else sees it as well. Because don't think that you've got to view everything in the same way as everybody else.
No way.
Because we've all got our own individual energies, and the way that something will work with one person, it will work differently with someone else. There will be a big commonality about it, so that you can tell it's the same energy, but there'll be the way that it relates to each other. I mean, you think about the way that you perhaps behave with different people, because you match the way. Not that you're a different person with different people, you're not change your personality with different, but the way that you talk to them perhaps is different with this person than it is with another, because you get on their level, and each person's level and energy is different. So and it's the way that you relate in that way. So I would just say the most important thing to do is just enjoy the process. And even when it feels as if life is being crap, and it's driving you round the bend, this spiritual path, which it can do. I'm going to tell you now, it can drive you senseless sometimes with the frustrations and everything. So it's not all going to be, all nice and peachy every day, and you're going to be smiling every day and glowing with, and everything.
Pagan fairy dust. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what draws most people to this path is the fact that it isn't always like that, because life isn't like that. The reality of life is it isn't like that, and our path reflects the life around us. And sometimes we know people that drive us crazy, that always seem to have a smile on their face and happy all the time, and particularly if you're not feeling so happy, you just feel like punching them. You need something to be not so happy about, because if you're that happy, you need to be experiencing a little bit of crap in your life in order to bring you down to.
Now I'm going to give it to you. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, not quite like that, but you know what I mean. It's real. It's real, and sometimes it can get pretty gritty. But what I'm saying is that let it be an adventure. You may not always like it, but because there are elements to every adventure that can be a bit hairy, a bit scary, a bit off-putting, but as taken as a whole, it's the most thrilling thing that you can actually undertake. So, and enjoy the process is what I'm saying. Just go with it and walk your path and be you. Have the confidence to be you and connect with other people like this group here, that I wouldn't have been doing half the stuff I've been doing if it wasn't for you guys. So I'm holding you all responsible for a start. So and I've got a lot of names written down for. These are the people responsible for my madness, So, no, that connect to one another, connect to yourself, connect to the energy around you and the world around you, and just take it one step at a time and enjoy that moment of each step. Don't be too much in a hurry. Don't be too much in a hurry to get to the next step that you forget to enjoy the step that you're on. And that is probably the most important advice I can give to anybody at any time, especially a beginner.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. Well, Stephen, I think this was great. I love that we were talking for 2 hours and we didn't even get to all the questions. I think that's wonderful. I'm so glad that people get to see what I see.
Yeah, but there was never any possibility that we were going to do that.
I know that's true. It just was not going to happen. So that's all right. I think we got to the questions we were supposed to. I really loved this. I believe, again, your channel's link is in the down bar there. And yes, I know the admins have posted it. So good. Stephen has some new stuff coming, and I'm really excited about, kind of the new direction of the channel, doing a couple new things and pulling new talks in. And we've been talking about a long time. A couple different people have told Stephen that we think he should be doing meditations, and he's done at least one on your channel. I know
there are two.
One
recently, and there's one some time ago that I did.
Yes. You have the voice.
So I may need to do more. That might be part of the expanding further by doing more of that and discussions of other topics. So we've touched on a lot tonight, but there's lots of things that I could touch upon and may cause a bit of controversy, but hey, why not? I think I can cope with that now. And move into that. So I did announce that I was going to make this expansion. I'm going to relaunch the channel sometime soon. I've got to finish working out how to do that, and also then get down to making this new content as well as the usual stuff that I've already done. To keep doing that as well as building on and talking about all this kind of thing. But yeah, so it doesn't matter if we haven't covered everything, because always leave them wanting more, and they can join my channel and get more of it.
That's right. I know. If you're anything like me, I have like a list somewhere. I have lists everywhere of channels, of videos that I want to do, that I have great ideas for it, and I just never quite have the time for. But we'll get there little by little. And so I thank you all for coming to the first Admin Get to Know Ya Spotlight. The next one, Shauna, I think it's going to be you. And you and Pat, I want to do separately. And I think if you're not busy next Tuesday, we'll be doing Shauna. So tune in next week at 7:30 for that. I will be on, again, I'm so bad, you guys. I mean, I am packing my ass off. Not enough, apparently, because a lot's still there, but I am packing. So I don't want to say a certain day or anything, but keep your eyes out. I'll be on. And I have so many ideas still to do. I have a big thing that happened recently for me with Deity that I haven't really talked to anybody about. But again, it's one of those things you learn constantly. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly deepening my practice in a different way. And so there's a big Deity aha moment that I had recently that I want to do a video on. It might not be till after we move. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you guys for coming. Make sure you tune into Stephen's channel. Go and subscribe to his channel and press that notification button. Click the like button on this video to get us a couple more views. And I love you all. Stephen, make sure you hang out after I end the broadcast.
Of course.
Bye.